For the better part of the last decade, the Minnesota Vikings dominated the Detroit Lions at the old Metrodome, winning 12 straight in the 2000s. Since closing the old place down, though, and opening U.S. Bank Stadium, the Motor City Kitties have flipped the script, winning 3 of the last 4 in the Twin Cities, including both games at the Bank, which is something the Vikings desperately need to stop today to keep the top of the NFC North standings their own, and it's pretty crowded up there. Opening drive, Latavius Murray spins and breaks the plane of the goal line before the fumble. That's a touchdown, and Minnesota leads 7-0. After that, the Viking defense gets Matt Stafford acquainted with the U.S. Bank Stadium turf. Tom Johnson, Sheldon Richardson tag team for the sack. It's still 7-6 at half, though. In the third quarter, the Vikings start to put this away. Welcome back, Dalvin Cook. His first game since week 4. He's been dealing with a hamstring injury. Really hasn't been right since he tore his ACL last year against the Lions. The hamstring looks good. 70-yard run there. That sets up this. Kirk Cousins to Adam Thielen, 2-yard score. Thielen didn't go over 100 yards receiving for the first time this season, but I think he's all right. It's 14-6. That was plenty for the Viking defense as they sacked Stafford a franchise record 10 times. That's Danielle Hunter. He had 3.5 of them, and it kind of made Stafford understandably uncomfortable. Fourth quarter, he's scrambling, trying to pitch. I emphasize trying because that was pretty bad. Hunter picks up the fumble. He goes all the way for a 32-yard score. And the Vikings do indeed get the critical NFC North win, 24-9. Again, a record 10 sacks for Minnesota's defense. And Cook looks pretty good in his return, 10 carries, 89 yards. They have a bye week before going to Chicago on October 18th. Speaking of the Bears, they killed the Peterman, 41-9. They're now 5-3. They actually have a half-game lead in first place over the Vikings because of that weird tie thing back in Green Bay. Speaking of the Packers, as you probably have already guessed, they play New England tonight at 7:20 right here on KDLT. In the AFC West, Cleveland is a factory of sadness, and Kansas City is a factory of points, so that pretty much went the way you expected. And Denver looking to upset Houston, that game in the third quarter. After a loss at Northern Iowa 2 weeks ago in which the Jackrabbits failed to score a touchdown, we wondered what was wrong with the previously high-powered SDSU offense. With a couple of new faces added to the mix, it seems the Rabbits have found their stride again. The Jackrabbits racked up 547 yards of total offense on their way to a 59-7 win over Missouri State yesterday at Dana J. Dykhouse Stadium. In the last 2 weeks, the Rabbits have scored 97 points, and a big reason seems to be the young running backs getting acclimated to more playing time. When leading rusher Isaac Wallace went down 3 weeks ago with a season-ending injury, SDSU was forced to give more carries to youngsters like that guy, Pierre Strong, and C.J. Wilson. Yesterday, Strong ran for 136 yards and a pair of scores as the Jacks ran for 283 yards, which naturally opened up the passing attack as well, with State throwing for 259 yards. And that only makes them more dangerous as the playoffs draw near.
Everyone just has that next up mentality. I mean, Pierre's done a great job of just stepping in, and you saw that tonight. And Mikey is just running hard, and Blair comes in and does his job as well. So, I mean, it just makes the offense go around when you're not just one-dimensional passing the ball. And I feel like we haven't been one-dimensional.
I'm really excited about some of our young guys stepping up and making some big plays, and thought we played, other than some penalties, thought we played a really complete game. So.
The Coyote offense also put up some impressive numbers yesterday at Indiana State. Austin Simmons threw for 375 yards and 3 scores, and the Coyotes had 602 total yards of offense. Unfortunately, their defense couldn't stop Indiana State or Ryan Boyle, the Iowa transfer, who would throw 5 touchdowns, including the game winner in triple overtime, to hand USD a 51-48 defeat. They're heading the wrong way as it's their 4th straight loss. We take a look at the Missouri Valley standings. They're pretty much just playing for pride now because they're clearly out of the playoff hunt. SDSU heads to Southern Illinois for their final regular season road game next week, while the Coyotes host Bob Nielsen's old team, Western Illinois. College volleyball today, USD, a much better season on the volleyball side of things. They can take over second place in the Summit by themselves with a win in Omaha, and Madison Juergens gets it started off right with an ace. USD took the first 2 sets, 25-23 and 25-20 as usual. Haley Dotseth was good. This one of her match-high 19 kills, giving USD the 3rd set lead. And then Elizabeth Loshin and Claire Gertis combined for the block as the Coyotes get the sweep. 3-0. They host NDSU and UND next week to wrap up the season. The first day of the Sanford Pentagon's NAIA Classic was very good to Dakota Wesleyan and Mount Marty, as both of their men's and women's basketball teams swept games with Dakota State in presentation. The defending NAIA national champion Dakota Wesleyan women looking to get to 3-0 in their weekend, finale with presentation. The Tigers scored 106 last night, and they picked up where they left off. Michaela Karst with a tray right there. The Saints were hanging tough a little bit early in this game. Watch this nice pass from Jada Campbell to Tone Oglesby on the backdoor cut as the Saints trailed by just 7 in the second quarter. That's when Dakota Wesleyan would start to pull away. They just have too many horses. Pretty much everyone back from the national championship team. The tournament MVP from a year ago, Kennedy Cheeseman, around a picking off glass. Tigers up 10. And then Riley Ostis will clean up her own miss and score. This game's in the fourth quarter. Don't know if Dakota Wesleyan's going to hit 100, but they're going to win. They're up 72-36. Both the Mount Marty men and women's teams both got victories today. We'll have those highlights tonight at 10, as well as a new edition of Gridiron Greatness. We're back in one moment.